We're closing in on the end of the year. And if you're like most people, you are, number one, extremely busy because there's so much to do this time of year. You are still working, you're still working a full schedule, and yet now there's all these holiday activities and holiday responsibilities and family and expectations, and you're trying to keep yourself healthy in what tends to be flu season. And so there's a lot happening. But secondly, you also, if you step back and think about it, you want to be sure that next year is as good or better than this year. We want to grow. We want to get better. We want to get healthier. We want to get happier. We want to get better in every way. And this is the time of year that it tends to get lost. And yet it is just a few weeks away that you're going to be thinking about, oh gosh, well, what did happen this year, and what are my New Year's goals or resolutions, if you like to use that term, and really set some objectives for the new year. And so I highly recommend that you do yourself a favor and just start turning on a little back burner in the back of your head, thinking about the transition from the current year to the next year. You don't have to get too serious about it at this point because there's so much going on, but you don't want to sit down around New Year's Eve or on New Year's Day and say, oh, wow, yeah, what am I taking from the year? And oh, what do I want to do differently this next year? And what goals do I have for the year? And then you think about it for about 5 minutes because then everyone says, let's go out to brunch. So you got to start thinking about what are some of those things that I want to put some thought into and I want to capitalize on and I want to set these goals. Just start to turn that burner on in the back of your head so that later, somewhere perhaps around the turn of the new year, you can actually sit down, do some writing. I highly recommend doing some journaling, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get closer to that time. About what is it that, again, I'm going to do to make next year better than this year was. And most people don't start thinking about that at this point, and therefore they actually weaken their ability to make next year better. So because they don't have the new year grounded in the learnings from the year that's passed. And so I recommend you start that now, and there's 3 things I want you to think about. First, in order to be sure that next year is going to be as good or better, let's go and make it better than the year that's passed, is you want to start by thinking about the year that's passed. Now, a lot of people don't like doing that. A lot of people are live and let live and let's move forward and let's not even think about the past. I encourage you to do some self-reflection rather than, for some people, it's, I feel uncomfortable thinking about the past, or I'd rather move on from the past. And yet if we move on from the past without taking something good with us, maybe you had a really hard year. Well, my parents had a saying, so I'm going to pass it on to you. They gave it to us and I'll pass it on to you. Their saying was, don't waste the suffering. If you really did have a hard year, don't waste it. And take something from it, learn something from it, gain something from it. Or maybe you had a great year, so you're look forward to reflecting on the year that's passed. Either way, when you do that, you form a firmer foundation for you to move on to the year that's ahead, the year that's in front of you. Your firmer foundation based on the things you've learned, based on your gratitude, based on all these good things, specifically 3 things. First of all, what are the great things that happened this year? And really make a list and get going on a list of all the good things and all the great things that happened during the year. And secondly, you're going to think about, okay, what are the hard things that happened? And what am I taking? What good am I taking from that hard thing? What am I learning from that hard thing? Or how is it forcing me to reckon with something or forcing me to be stronger? And really do some reflecting on that. And then it's just really do your gratitudes. What are you grateful for from this past year? Things that happened in the past year. And again, you're going to start, if you want to start making lists, great. Jotting a few notes, great. But at least start thinking about that in the back of your head at this point. Second, do you ever find yourself realizing you're thinking about what happened or you're planning what's going to happen next, and you wake up one day and you realize, wow, I kind of haven't been in the present here for the last 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 months or 5, God forbid, years. Being in the present is something that people generally struggle with because we're so busy stewing over something that happened, or we're so busy planning what's going to happen next and moving towards the future, but we miss all the great things that are in front of us right now. And so I highly recommend, as we think about that transition from one year to the next year, you really think about the present, and thinking about, really taking stock of it can give you joy, or it can give you courage and confidence. If there are some really hard things to look at, you want to take stock of three things. What are you satisfied with in your life right now? Maybe you're ecstatic about it, but at least what are you satisfied with in your life right now? And then secondly, what are you not satisfied with in your life right now? And you're going to be ultimately making some plans around those things, but what are you dissatisfied with? And then third, just what are you really, really grateful for in your life right now? Where you are, where you live, who your friends are, who your family is, what kind of work you do that you love doing, a vacation that you're on, happen to be on right now. But I mean right now, what are the things you're grateful for in the present moment? And feel free to go really specific and go really sensory. And I'm grateful for the air I breathe. I've got clean air to breathe. What a blessing. So take stock of those things. Satisfied with, dissatisfied with, grateful for right now in your life. Third, it's exciting to think about the future and to make plans for the future. And as they say, people generally spend more time researching and making plans for their next vacation than they do around their future and really where they want to go. And you want to absolutely give some time over the transition from one year to the next to think about, what do I really want out of this next year? Because what you don't want is to get to the end of the next year, look back 12 and a half months and say, wow, I didn't change at all. I'm in exactly the same place. I'm exactly the same way, the same bad habits, the same dissatisfaction with work, the same dissatisfaction with how I sleep, etc. So you want to make plans. You want to start thinking about, what is my vision? What is my vision for the next year? What do I want it to look like? And you're going to go through all the different areas of your life. You're going to think about your career and your health and your relationships and where you live and how you like the space around you and how you spend your spare time and all of those things that you say, this is what I want my life to look like. You want to get a clear vision. So just start thinking about that, maybe jotting a few notes, get it in the back of your mind. And then ultimately you're going to set a very concrete small number of goals. If you set too many goals, if you say, I'm going to do these 16 things and I'm going to do them all in January, it's not going to go too well. But if you choose a few select areas, and then you might say, the first quarter of the year, I'm really focusing on establishing this in this area. And then the second quarter, I'm going to keep going with that, but now I'm going to add this other piece. So choose a small number of goals, and then you're going to prioritize those and choose where you're going to focus first. And then, of course, you're going to get more detailed. You're going to not just have your annual goals, but you're going to get it down to quarterly. You're going to get it down to monthly, and then you're going to get it down to weekly, and you're going to plan your weeks and plan your days according to what you want to accomplish so that you can look back. And this isn't to overstructure your life, it's to support you so you can look back a year from now and say, yeah, I consciously and actively moved my life towards where I wanted it to go. And sure, there were ups and downs, and sure, there were obstacles in the way, but those obstacles taught me something, etc., etc. So you want to come up with that future vision for yourself so that ultimately you can set up plans and execute against those plans. So we're coming up on the end of the year. We've got a few weeks to go, but don't wait until January 1st or January 10th or beyond to think about, what do I want from this year? And by all means, do not move into the year without thinking about what you want. Getting clear and getting so much research on this about getting clear on what you want, you're much more likely to get what you want. You're going to, of course, put some action plans together. That's more than half the battle. But it starts with getting clear on what you want. So start coming up with that vision and what you're envisioning for that next year. So just start thinking about it. Start writing down a few notes. Just start paying attention to what is that voice in the back of your head starting to say to you about what you want out of the year that's to come.